Good morning.
Morning.
Happy New Year.
New Year.
Everybody make the resolutions. I heard Bob's this morning. Walked over to the food stations and looked at the donuts and went right past the donuts and said, I'm gonna go with some fruit this morning. And we're all taking bets as we go out as to how long this will last. Hope everybody had a safe New Year. We have a lot of good stuff to talk about here this morning. Once again, just like we always do, I'll be sending out all the slides here. I do have a number of different links in the slides themselves. So don't worry about copying them all down. I'm going to get them all sent out to you, having to do with registrations or accessing websites or things like that. So don't worry about that. Let's see here. First up this morning is Dan and James, or James and Dan, whichever.
You have that other slide.
It's up here. You want me to go to it now?
Yeah, you can. That's
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year, of course. So just wanted to reiterate a couple things about government financing. These are some statistics for specifically Lancaster County. So obviously, if we look back to 2018, 2019, almost 20% of all mortgages that buyers used were government financing, specifically FHA and VA. And as you see where we are year to date, we're about 50% of that. Now, obviously, you all work in the industry, so you understand why this is, of course. The decline really is because of sellers, not wanting to accept government financing in many cases, simply because of the additional requirements, restrictions, whatever it may be. A couple things I just wanted to point out about this. I know we're seeing a little bit of government financing come back. I do see some offers getting accepted here and there, but still, obviously, as of November, we're declined considerably. So obviously, appraisers look for specific things regarding health and safety as well as security risks. Obviously, we all know that. But one thing I like to point out, because clients ask me if they're specifically government buyers, well, what should I be concerned about? And just some things to keep in mind. So obviously, most homes that have been taken care of that are, say, 15 to 20 years old, generally shouldn't have any issues with a government type appraisal. Most of the time we see issues with repairs are related to like chipping paint. Obviously that occurs mostly on older homes when you have like wooden porches, wooden posts, so on and so forth, sometimes wooden garage doors. So there are things that are fairly common, but more often than not, a home that's 15 to 20 years old probably is not really going to have many, if any, repairs required with government financing. So just something to kind of keep in mind as well. With obviously, government financing, more buyers can qualify for purchases. Obviously, if you're representing buyers, that's kind of important, not as much if you're a seller and you have multiple offers on a property, but it gives opportunities. Individuals using government financing often may have some possible past credit issues, obviously asset issues. That's why they're doing lower down payment with 3.5%, or if it's USDA rural housing, it's 100%. But they're still qualified buyers at the end of the day. So, I mean, there's, I like the joke that's kind of out there is like, well, what do you call the person that graduates at the bottom of medical school? They're still a doctor. So it's kind of the same thing when it comes to an approved buyer. Even though they're, government financing, they're still qualified buyers. Seller assist, I mean, obviously from the listing side, if you're looking at reducing the price of a property versus offering seller incentive, I've seen some of this on listings now where some sellers are offering $5,000, $10,000 seller assist. So again, with government financing, with every program, whether it's USDA, FHA, or VA, a buyer can get up to 6%. So again, just kind of another incentive as a listing agent, rather than reducing a price, offering seller assist. And then of course, a government buyer could take advantage of that significantly. The FHA loan amount. Does anyone have an idea what the FHA loan amount is currently? It's up there. That's it's right. So it's $472,030. So pretty significant. So again, just because somebody's using FHA financing doesn't necessarily mean that they're lower or even middle income. I mean, a $472,000 house is a pretty significant home purchase. So again, they can be, well-qualified buyers. The last thing I like to kind of point out too is, when we look at, housing, I mean, obviously our role in the industry is to advocate for everyone to become homeowners. Often individuals utilizing government financing, first and foremost, if we're talking about a VA buyer, this is someone that, served our country. They earned this benefit to be able to use VA financing. And also, other government buyers, they can bring something to a community or neighborhood that someone else can't. And they could also be essentially the family that has children to play with your children as well. So it brings a lot of different type of homeowners and buyers to a community as well. So, just some things I wanted to point out about government financing, government buyers, because obviously it's lacking in the market. I understand the path of least resistance from the listing side of things, but there's still great opportunities out there to get these buyers into homes as well. Any specific questions about government financing anyone has? Okay. That's all I got.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Just to piggyback on something that Dan said here, and obviously we are still in somewhat of a challenging market as far as inventory is concerned. In fact, I was just talking to Carol this morning. You were showing houses when over the weekend?
I showed a house Friday night. We
Okay.
threw an offer. They wanted all offers Monday and there were 4 on the table.
So she had 4 offers on the table. So we're still getting multiple offer situations. They aren't going away. And I said to her, well, at least it's 4 instead of 40. Tell me about your offer. What type of offer was it?
Cash,
Cash.
as
Okay.
is, settled 2 weeks.
Yeah. Cash as is, settled in 2 weeks. So not to discount what Dan just said, but one of the things I believe you ought to be talking about with your buyers as you're sitting down with them initially, not only about qualifying loan wise and obviously get them in front of a lender to get qualified, but I would be talking to buyers about, hey, do you have the ability to pay cash for a property? I know some buyers don't want to do it, but sometimes it might be in the market that we're in right now. Sometimes it might be the only way that you can get them in a competitive or get the property in a competitive situation. So I think you need to have the conversation right up front with people instead of waiting until after they've been rejected 3 or 4 agreements into it, and then they start considering at that time. So once again, heed what Dan just said, also have the conversation with buyers about cash itself. I know Sarah is at a settlement in Elizabethtown, so I'm going to skip right to James, who is here with us. Happy New Year, James.
Here, everybody. Okay. That's just something. Since there were a lot of meetings the same day, I originally planned a bring your policy to work last month. I just said we'll just move it back to next year in 2023. So that's what I plan on having the next sales meeting day, which would be February. Do you know off the top of your head?
It's the first Tuesday in February,
Okay.
whenever that is.
Okay. Yep. So if you'd like a quote, just bring in your policies, dates of birth, driver's license numbers for all household members. And that'll make everything go a little bit smoother. And once again, thanks for all your referrals in 2022. And if you have any questions for me, you know my number, 717-575-4014.
Thank you. And just, I think I've mentioned this in the past, just one thing to keep in mind. I had my policy quoted a couple of years ago by Homesale Insurance. Basically gave them my entire policy and said, here, take a look at it, which they did. And now it wasn't James at the time. In fact, I should probably get mine rechecked, so I'll probably take advantage of this. But I brought my policy in, had the insurance provider look at it with Homesale Insurance, and they got back in touch with me and said, here are the quotes. I showed them what I was paying, and they said, listen, you should probably stay with where you are right now. So this is not something that's going to be jammed down your throat. This is something that is just to give you an idea of where you stand. And it's something I think you all ought to consider, once every year, once every other year, just to make sure that you're in a competitive situation. So thank you, James. We'll get other notes out as a reminder for next sales meeting, so you can take advantage of that.
Can I say something?
Yep, go ahead.
I also did the same thing that you just said.
Uh-huh.
And he told me things to look at.
Mhm.
And I spoke to my insurance person, because he told me the same thing, James.
Yep.
And they lowered my cost.
There you go. So Maria, for those that are on the Zoom call and couldn't hear that, Maria did this recently with James in our office. James made some recommendations to make some adjustments. When that was done, she went back to her original carrier and they ended up lowering the premium. So there's advantages all the way around. So thanks for sharing
And I
that.
got more agreement.
And got more into it. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of the kickoff and forever agent movement that is coming up. And I will say this up front. I've had a number of people ask me, hey, I can't be there. Is this going to be on a Zoom call? Is this going to be recorded? And the answer is no, it will not. Okay, so this is live. The one that is closest to us is Tuesday, January 17th from 8:30 to 11:30 at Spooky Nook. If you've not been there and you think Spooky Nook is only a workout place with gym and you name it, they got some unbelievable meeting facilities there on the second floor. So highly encourage you to get there. We are going to have Alan Dalton, who's coming in from Berkshire Hathaway Homeservices. Andrew Undum is going to be there, who's co-written a book with Alan. Andrew is out of our, I don't think it says there. He's in one of our Maryland offices, does a phenomenal job. He has a large team down in Maryland, and Rod Messick obviously will be there sharing some things about what's coming up in 2023 and also what's going on with the Forever movement. So I would highly encourage you to register for this. This is one of those things I am going to be sending out a link. You've already received the link probably twice, but I'll provide the link as a reminder for you. We're also looking to highlight you. We're trying to do a montage of 30-second to 1-minute videos of agents or core service people in our company who basically are telling us what they're looking forward to doing in 2023. It could involve something of the mind. It could involve utilizing a program or service to a greater degree than what you have. But we're looking to do this and put it together. Once again, there is a link that I'm going to be providing for this. I don't think it says there, but I think they wanted to have all these in by the end of January. So if you would consider doing this, please do so. It's only 30 seconds to 60 seconds long. And if you've never been in front of a camera before, come and see me and I'll get you all set up with lighting and stuff like that so you don't have to worry about it. Also, the Homesale Awards Gala is Thursday, March 2nd at the Lancaster Marriott. You need to register by January 24th. You can check this website out here. Once again, I also will have a link to this so you can just click on it and register at that link. It's a Monte Carlo night theme this year. A couple of things about marketing and agent services. I'm going to try to highlight a couple of these a month just to make sure everybody is aware of what we have that you can take advantage of. One of the things that I do as I'm talking with agents on a consistent basis is agent will tell me something and I'll say, hey, are you aware that we have a program that covers what you just talked to me about? And then I get the totally blank stare. Huh? We do? I didn't know that. So I'm going to cover usually a couple of these a month just to make sure that you understand what is available to you. The vast majority of these things, there's no cost to at all, and you could just take advantage of them. Some of these, there's a nominal cost to, but once again, it can save you time and effort in the long run. So here's the first one. We have a social media connector. I hear from people a lot, geez, putting stuff on social media is such a chore and it takes so much time. I get it. I put a lot of things on social media myself. This will allow you to essentially do it automatically. This is free to you. There's no fee to do this and to set it up initially. Once again, I can provide a link for you so that you can go to the section and see what can be provided for you. And once again, it does it automatically for you. Another one is monthly personalized marketing subscriptions. We have two types of subscriptions. And before I get too far into this, both of these subscriptions here, if you don't want to, and you'll see there's a small monthly fee associated with these, you may look at these and say, well, these are already available to us. Why am I going to pay a fee? Well, they are available to you, but you got to go in and do it yourself, okay, and set it all up, put your information into it. This will allow you, if you pay the subscription fee, somebody will go ahead and do it for you, and they will send it to you once a month so that you can go ahead and send it out without spending all the time in the setup. So the first one, it's a $10 a month fee. You get 4 pop-by tags and a monthly item of value. Once again, they're already in our systems right now. You can go in there and do it yourself if you want to. And the second one is a monthly branded postcard. Once again, this does not include the mailing list, which you would provide, also the postage for this, okay? I talked about that. Homesale Virtual Assistant, the Homesale Virtual Assistant. This is where you can market yourself. You can create a personalized brochure for yourself. You can personalize business cards. There's a number of other things that are available, and there's different levels here. I'm not even going to put, I don't think I even put the cost up here. You can go to homesalevirtualassistant.com to look into what is available to you as an agent, not only to market yourself, but you can also market a property. And you can do this on an individual basis. If you say, I don't want to do this for I'll call it a standard listing, but geez, I'm probably going to be getting an upper end listing and I really want to do some extra things for this listing. You may want to consider the market a property approach here. Once again, the fees are very, very reasonable, and it's kind of a la carte. You can select what you want and what you don't want. And then finally, our full service agent websites. As everybody knows, you have on our homesale.com, everybody has an agent page. And by the way, if I can share one thing with you about your agent page, is please check them. Put something on there other than what the company provided for you when you first joined the company, because your page will then look like everybody else's page. And it says the exact same thing. So you're not really setting yourself apart. It's very easy to change. All you got to do is just get into the section, and you can write your own bio. You can put your social media sites on there. You can do a lot of different things, but do something that's a little bit different than everybody else. Don't have the exact same bio. Okay.
I never knew you could do a yearly discount. So
yeah. There you go. So yes, these are a month by month basis. You can do them on a yearly basis. They are available for teams and also for agents. If you've never been through this process, all you do is contact them. They will sit down with you. They have, I forget how many different designs they have. They have 80 plus designs that you can get into and take a look at the different designs and layouts. They will, once again, do a bio for you. They'll write the bio. I know a lot of people say, I don't know what to write about myself. They'll do all this stuff for you, and it's included with, because there's no setup fees, okay? Career development, there's a couple things coming up with career development I wanted to make you aware of. The first is on Monday, January 9th from 1:30 to 2:30. Last year, we got a lot of input from people who said, geez, I think I may want to start a team, but I really don't even know where to start. And, I see other people have a team. Are they all run the same? They all operate differently? How, what do we do? We have gotten to the point where we have enough information from all our various teams. And as you know, there's a lot of teams in Berkshire Hathaway. You can certainly attend this Zoom session. You'll get a broad overview of starting a team. It's not something you have to do right now, but it's something you may want to stick into the back of your mind or your back pocket and say, geez, at least I now know what the basics are of starting this. So this is coming up. And once again, I'm going to provide a link to the Zoom call in case you want to hop on. You do need to pre-register for this ahead of time. And then Buffini is coming back to our company and you'll see the closest one to us is right here. Becky Miller is going to be doing it here at the office. I'm not 100% sure at this point in time, which is why I have to be determined of the dates of this. We do have some other locations in West York and Reading that are doing it. As soon as I get basic information and RSVP information, I will pass it along to you in case you want to take advantage of that. Okay. All right. Are you ready to handle more contingencies in 2023? This really came to light. Here's why I put this on today's agenda. I do run a mastermind meeting with our small group of agents we usually have anywhere from 2 to maybe 10 people at this. And one of the things I got coming out of one of the most recent mastermind meetings is one of the agents said, geez, I haven't had to deal with an inspection contingency in 2 years. I don't even know what it says anymore. Or I haven't dealt with mortgage contingencies because everybody's offering cash transactions. What do I need to be aware of? So I thought I'd take a moment today and just do some highlights of not only mortgage contingencies and some of the stuff you may not even be aware of, mortgage contingencies, but also inspection contingencies. And I'm doing the inspection contingencies second, and you'll see why. Probably of all the input that I get from agents on transactional issues, the number one thing that happens most often is inspection contingencies and trying to look at the timeline and what's going on with the timeline and when do I respond and who do I respond to and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully I'm going to provide you with a tool today that'll help you through that. But let's deal with mortgage contingencies first. I have these bullet pointed. These are coming essentially right out of the mortgage contingency. Buyer may elect not to make the agreement contingent upon financing. However, they may get financing. It says that right in the agreement of sale. A lot of agents are not aware of that. Okay, so they put on the agreement of sale, they're waiving the contingency. It does not preclude them from going out and getting financing. Yes, James.
If they're going to do that, do you fill out the portion of the box with the information about the mortgage or not?
No. James's question was, if they're going to waive the mortgage contingency, do you need to fill out the box that has all the specifics of the mortgage? And the answer is no, you do not need to fill that out. Okay. One of the questions that comes up quite often is, I have listing agents come to me and say, hey, the appraiser wants to come out to take a look at the property. My seller said, hey, they waived that, they made this a cash agreement. Why do I have to let the appraiser in? Well, it's in the agreement of sale. You have to let the appraiser in. You have to let the appraiser in. Okay. Buyers in default if they furnish false information or fails to cooperate in the processing of the mortgage. I'm sure Dan and James have some horror stories about this over the years that they've dealt with where they've asked a potential buyer for something maybe a half a dozen times, and the buyer keeps saying, oh, I'll have it to you by Friday. I'll have it to you by next Monday. And it just never shows up. If you have, and it can be documented, if it can be documented that people are dragging their feet, they could be held in default of, the agreement of sale. So one of the things you want to do as a buyer's agent is stay on your buyer. And either talk with James and Dan or talk with your lender and say, hey, what's missing that I can help you follow up with to make sure I'm moving the ball along here? Yeah, Bob.
Ask them a question. If I represent the seller and I feel the buyer has lagged, are they allowed to tell me that, or is that confidentiality?
Okay. The question from Bob, it's interesting, Bob. I have a bullet point up here on this. The question from Bob is, if he's the listing agent and he's not getting anywhere with the buyer's agent about what's going on with the loan, is he allowed to contact the lender directly and try to get an answer? Hold on to that because it's coming up, because it is outlined in the agreement of sale, believe it or not. Okay. Buyer needs to apply for the loan within 7 days unless changed in the agreement of sale, which includes paying for the loan application. In the world in which we live in today, I have buyers that I'm hearing all the time that are shopping the internet for loans. And I got a quote from the First National Bank of Kentucky. And they're giving me a great quote. Is that fulfilling the application? The answer is no. Just doing something online does not apply, or does not mean that you have applied for a loan. The question I always ask people when people have a question about this is, did they actually fork over an application fee? Because if they haven't forked over an application fee, they haven't applied for a loan. Okay, they haven't applied for a loan. Yeah, Dan.
I don't know too many lenders that charge application.
Well, Dan, expand on that.
I don't know too many lenders that charge out. So
Dan said he doesn't know too many lenders that charge an application fee. Go ahead, Dan.
So, I mean, paying for the appraisal, but there's also some guidance on that where it may not happen within 7 days as well. So that doesn't define an application thing.
So the appraisal's not being ordered?
Well, the appraisal can be ordered, but as far as payment on it, so when the borrower can pay for it is based on certain days and disclosure.
Can you repeat what you just said with the mic, please? Thank you. I'll get to you again. Good.
Sure. So basically, I said I don't know too many lenders that charge application fees. And the second piece is an appraisal can be ordered without the buyer paying for it. We have a somewhat of a waiting period before we can charge the appraisal fee to the buyer. So they have to sign what's called an intent to proceed disclosure.
And when are they signing that?
When we generate the full loan disclosures, but like in our world, we're most likely not generating the loan disclosures until we have all documents from the borrower. So,
without getting into a big thing here,
right.
We need to talk. The agreement says appraisal needs to be ordered immediately.
Without delay.
Well,
Without
right,
delay.
but
So if we're delaying, there's a problem.
so define immediately.
The agreement says immediately, without delay. Once again, I don't want to get into a
Yeah,
big
that's
thing
fine.
here.
Yeah, that's fine.
We should probably talk outside of this.
Sure.
Because we don't want to have a situation where we're violating what's in the agreement of sale inadvertently.
Sure.
And it might be a matter of semantics that we're talking about right here. But yeah, it does. In fact, I actually have something up here that says you have to move as quickly as possible. You can't, we're getting situations in the past where people were saying, hey, can you hold up on doing that appraisal? Because I don't want to pay for it because of this. Can't do that. Can't do that. So.
I'll pay $500 for the
That's
appraisal.
right.
That's the
That we have to
problem.
pay for it. So
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Can you move the mic over there? Thank you.
So a couple things that I've run into in the past, lenders don't seem to understand or know what's in our contract about the ordering the appraisal without delay. Make sure your buyers know that they have to do that, because a lender may say to them, well, let's wait to see what comes out of the inspections, or let's wait to see what comes out of the appraisal. But you have to order the appraisal without delay.
Right.
That's the basic thing. So you can't delay it, except the only exception to that I found is if your buyer is using USDA direct. because their rules and regulations do not allow the USD will not order the appraisal until after the inspections have been resolved, because the appraisal then is one where the appraiser's only looking at value because he already knows that items are being rectified as far as,
Yeah. So it's violating a provision of the type of mortgage is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay.
all right. So, thank you. Here, can you pass that up? Thank you. Buyer lender must order the appraisal immediately. Says it in the agreement of sale. Seller's agent may contact the lender at any time to determine the status of the loan application. Now, to Bob's point, Bob probably can't talk to Dan or James and say, well, tell me what's due yet. The only thing he can probably say is, can you share with me where it is? And according to our agreement of sale, it allows the lender to say to Bob, we're still processing it. You know, we're expecting this. But I don't think they can get into specifics, but you can contact the lender. It does say that in our agreement. Buyer cannot back out of the agreement if they were given the opportunity to lock in their interest rate, but chose to let the rate float with the market. And now the current interest rate is above the minimum interest rate agreed upon at the agreement of sale date. So if they have the opportunity to lock it in and they say, nope, I'm going to play the market, and now it gets above where those levels are in the agreement of sale, they can't back out of the agreement. I mean, they may not qualify for the loan, but they're going to be in default of the loan or default of the agreement, excuse me. Seller has the right to contribute financially to the buyer or lender to make the mortgage terms available to the buyer. Did you know that? Okay. So if you have a seller who says, geez, I really don't want to go through this whole process again, and they need another extra amount. And by the way, as I say this, it can't violate provisions of what the mortgage is as far as how much can be contributed and things like that. And seller may terminate agreement after the commitment date if written commitment is not received. Please get commitment letters from lenders and read what's in the commitment letter. Read what's in the commitment letter. I have read commitment letters that sound like I'm going to commit this loan to you, and then 3 pages later with all the different things that they need yet. That's not a commitment, okay? A couple things. Seller may terminate the agreement after written commitment has been received and contain any conditions that are not removed by the lender within 7 days, such as the appraisal, settlement of other property, or income has not been verified. Now, it's not re-substantiating what the income is, but if they've never provided any kind of income verification, and we're now issuing a commitment letter that says this is contingent upon getting verification of employment or income, that doesn't fly with the agreement of sale. Yeah, Dan.
So if it's settlement of other,
Go ahead. I'm coming to you. Go ahead.
So if there's a settlement of other property contingency and that's happening at the same time, how could that be removed within 7 days of the commitment?
If it wasn't, obviously everybody heard that. If it wasn't included with the regular agreement of sale, in other words.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In other words, if, Bob had the listing here, he had his seller accept the agreement of sale without a house for sale contingency. And then this comes in and it shows that hey, this house. No, that's not going to fly.
Second question, then the appraisal. So we submit a file, we can have a mortgage commitment same day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not likely we will have the appraisal back within 7 days, even though we ordered it immediately. How does that work?
Once again, are you referring to when it's committed or the commitment date in the agreement?
So when it's committed. So this is based on the commitment
Date.
because this is seller may terminate agreement after written commitment has been received.
Yeah.
So if we issue the commitment date today, that
Do the commitment today, but the commitment date's not for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
then we're okay as
You're
long as we're okay. Very good.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify.
right.
Thank you.
Thank God we got mortgage
Just
people
keep
here.
it there.
Inspection stuff. Let me shift gears. Sellers may not deny access to inspectors, appraiser, municipal officials, etc. This includes, I'm not available today. You can come back next week to get into my home, and you can only be there for 5 minutes. I've heard these where sellers of properties just make it really difficult for an inspector or an appraiser to access the property. Okay, got to be reasonable. Only parties and real estate licensees may attend to any inspections. Two different things here. Number one, this also includes seller and the seller's agent. I get a lot of things during the course of a year saying, I don't want the seller there and I don't want the other agent there. They're allowed to do it as part of the agreement of sale. Now, they obviously can't get in the way, but they are allowed there. They are parties to the agreement of sale. So if you have somebody that your seller says, I'd like you to be here as the home is being inspected, you're within your rights according to the agreement of sale. Okay. And the other thing that comes up is, well, I'd like to have mom and dad there also. Well, if mom and dad want to come along, you're going to need to receive permission from the seller. Okay. Because that's not provided for in the agreement of sale. Seller must have heating and all utilities on for all inspections and appraisals. We run into this all the time. You know, person gets to the property, the electric's turned off, there's no heating fuel there. Everything needs to be on. So if you're working with the seller, make sure that you're making your seller aware of these things. Yes, James.
What happens in a situation where the seller's disclosure statement indicates that they know that there's a plumbing leak if the water's off? Because it
I think you're fine because you're telling people ahead of time there's a problem with this particular thing. You can't have it on because if it's on, it's going to cause more damage, more than likely.
But let's just say that they say that the water leak is in a bathroom.
Mhm.
This bathroom sink is leaking, so they have the water on. It turns out that when you go out there for the final walkthrough or sometime in the future that there's leaks in other locations.
Did you buy the property knowing that it had a leak?
At one particular location, not necessarily at other locations.
So they have other locations turned off?
No, let's just say they've got the water main of the house turned off. And I've come across inspectors that will not turn the water on,
Right.
okay?
Mhm.
So now the water's off, you know about a leak in the bathroom,
A bathroom.
Mhm. Okay, and then you go through later on, you know, when you do your final walkthrough and you turn the water on, it's supposed to be on for the final walkthrough. Right?
I don't, this is my personal opinion. I think the water needs to be onto the property. It needs to be shut off to the bathroom.
To the location. where
Period.
it is.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
That's reasonable. To have the whole house shut off of water, I think is unreasonable.
We should, in that situation, if that were to be the case, obviously let the seller know in advance that we want everything on except where the leak is.
Yes.
If they don't, when the inspector gets out there, the inspector is not willing to turn on the main.
Most inspectors won't do that anyway. Most inspectors will say to the buyer, excuse me, the seller, you're the one that needs to turn this on.
That's what I'm saying. So they won't do it. So you're there for your inspection and they were supposed to have only the specific location turned on.
I think the seller has a problem. I think the seller has a problem. Yeah, Bob.
When I work with a lot of relocation.
Yeah.
Now that would come in the relocation agreement
Yes.
that the buyer would have to pay to turn the water.
Right. Bob said, hey, he's worked with a lot of relocation companies in the past, and as part of their agreement, they specifically say this isn't going to be turned on, or it's going to be up to the buyer. As long as it's agreed upon ahead of time, you're okay. Okay. Inspectors are authorized to provide a copy of the report to the buyer's agent. And also, seller has the right to receive a free copy of the inspection report. By the way, I get a number of questions about this. Must the seller, if the seller says, I don't want to receive a copy of the report, do you have to give it to them? The answer is no. The answer is no. Okay. Seller does not have the right to receive a copy of the lender's appraisal report. Sometimes you get a situation where the seller says, I can't believe that appraisal came in this low. I want to see a copy of the appraisal. They aren't required to give it to them. Okay. And know your key timeline dates. So we'll divide these in half. I'll provide you with a PDF of this, what I'm handing out here. This is the number one question I get in agreements to sale all the time. Is we're right in the middle of this, and I can't figure out where we are in the timeline. Can you help me out? Can you count days? Can you do this? I have been doing this for years, and this is the way I do it. When an agent comes to me, the very first thing that I do, by the way, I just actually created this from my own brain. But I usually would sit down with a blank piece of paper and I'd do a timeline. And I'd look at the agreement of sale and I'd say, when is the execution date? When's 10 days if it hasn't been changed? When's the 5 days? When's the 2 days? So hopefully this will help you also. So if you look at this, you go to the next slide here. If you look at this, all you've got to do is fill in the execution date here at the very beginning. And the contingency period says you got 10 days. Now you may change that in the agreement of sale. If you change it, fill in the number of days right there. And then add the number of days to that date to come up with the date here. You then have a 5-day negotiation period. That can also be changed. If you have the 5-day negotiation period and that's still the same, add 5 days to that, and that's your next date. And then you have, even though it's not in the agreement of sale, it's not counted like this, by the way, this specifically says in the agreement of sale contingency period and also negotiation period. I added the last one. If nothing happens and everybody's still kind of, well, we're still working on this, it's called a buyer's consideration period. You got 2 days at the very end. If the buyer's not getting what they want, they can walk away. Now, the key note here is this. They can accept the property by doing nothing, or they can terminate. Now, here's the issue that I run into all the time, is you get right into this period right here, and Tyler and I are 2 agents. And we're this close to agreeing on how to split the roof repair. And we're still talking, we're going back and forth, except if you look at the dates on this, we are right at the date. If you're talking back and forth, that's how much that means. Nothing. Pay attention to the dates. Because if Tyler and I then go now beyond here, and Tyler says, well, looks like we're not going to be able to come to agreement on this, and I fill out a termination notice for my buyer, and it's past that last date, I'm fried. I'm fried. I can't use the excuse that, well, Tyler and I were talking with each other. He seemed like a reasonable guy before he turned into an ogre. I get this all the time. Pay attention to the dates. Yeah, James.
One piece of confusion that seems to happen with a lot of realtors out there is, let's just say I'm on the buyer side and we submit our buyers and final inspections on day 5.
Go ahead.
I've run into this a bunch of times with other realtors that don't understand how this works.
Mhm.
So I'm on buyer side and we submit our buyer's reply to inspections on day 5.
Mhm.
In reality, the negotiation period then extends from there for in essence 10 days if we haven't changed any of the dates in here. It doesn't mean that our contingency period has ended on day 5 because we've submitted our buyer's reply to
So
inspections.
let me address what he just said. The old agreement of sale actually did what he's talking about. If he submitted his reply right here, this is when the new time frame would start. In the old agreement, it would start there for 5 days, and now you're already here. The new agreement, when it's worded, says if he submits his stuff on day 5, We have the contingency period runs a whole 10 days. Now we have another 5 days. So you have a total of 10 days is what your point was. So pay attention to the dates that are in the agreement of sale. Thank you. All right. Any questions on this? Hopefully this will help you out a little bit. I would say if you get an agreement of sale with contingencies, pull out this sheet, just fill in the dates and just stick it in your file. And that way you keep it in front of you all the time. Okay. All right. So are we headed for a crash? What's everybody heard? Yes. We're in the dumper. The whole world's ending. Nobody knows. So, God, I read all kinds of crap. And trust me, it's crap. I read all kinds of crap in the media about, how we're going to enter this crash. And every time that I go beyond the headline and I read the article, it's a bunch of bunk. They don't even, I cleaned it up there a little for you. They don't get into anything other than somebody's opinion that says we're going down the wrong road here. And every time that I see this, it just makes my blood boil. What I think you ought to do, and I'm going to share a whole bunch of stuff here with you, is if you're meeting with buyers and sellers and they're on the fence, show them some of this stuff because they're getting bombarded with all kinds of articles and stuff that says you shouldn't be buying real estate. You shouldn't be selling. This is not a good time. Okay. So here are two that I read. Here's the first one from Yahoo Finance. It says 15 years ago, the housing market crashed under similar circumstances. That's the headline. So I read the article and not one fact was in the entire article about anything. It was just somebody's opinion. Somebody's opinion. But guess what people read? That right there. This one came from Fox News. U.S. suffering from the second biggest home price correction of the post-World War II era. By the way, that is a true statement. However, they got you to click on it. But what they don't tell you is what was appreciation rates like the last couple of months, couple of years? Huge numbers. And now they're down to 1%, 2%. And they're taking the difference between that huge number and the 1% and 2% and saying, we're now in the dumper. No, but this is what people are reading. Okay. So here's a study that was done by Lending Tree. Just ask people their general opinion of where they thought the market was right now. 41% of Americans believe the housing market will crash in the next 12 months. 41%. Okay. Of those 41%, 72 believe it's going to be worse than 2008. 58% expect a housing crash in the next year, and they're postponing housing-related changes. This is where you come in. You have to have facts in front of you, not headlines. You have to have facts in front of you, so when your buyers and sellers are saying, hey, I'm just going to sit this one out for the next 12 months and let this whole thing kind of go by the wayside, and I'll see what things look like on the other side. You need to sit down with them and have a conversation, not jam things down their throat, but tell them what's really going on. Okay. I'm going to provide this report for you. This is put out by Dr. Lawrence Yoon of NER. He's their chief economist. He did a presentation on December 13th, which I have here as in PDF format. There's a lot of stats in here. I'd like to say that I came up with a lot of this stuff on my own, but I stole it from him. And it shows some things that are actually happening in the marketplace. And this is what we need to share with buyers and sellers. And once again, I'll forward the PDF to you guys. So he took a look at a whole bunch of different things having to do with the present market and where we are. Job cuts, the last housing cycle versus the housing cycle that we're in right now. What's going on? There were 8 million job cuts in 2008. Today, 0. 8 million versus 0. You don't read about that though. Total payroll jobs, 130 million back in 2008. We're at 153 million today. Mortgage market. Our mortgage people in the back of the room, they squirm when they hear this stuff. Subprime loans, the last housing cycle versus this housing cycle, they were prevalent and they're now virtually gone. There's not a lot of those loans out there anymore. Mortgage delinquency rate, last housing cycle, 10%. Right now, 3.6%. That's almost 3 times. Homes in foreclosure, 4.6 to less than 1% are in foreclosure today. Once again, no one's reading this stuff. Inventory. Carol, tell us about inventory. So the last housing cycle had almost 4 million homes on the market. This housing cycle, 1.2. By the way, this is supply and demand, stupid. Okay? It's hard to have a bust with inventory levels like this. Really, really hard.
Probably more real estate.
There you go. New construction over a 5-year period leading up to this, these cycles, 7.65 million new construction homes versus 4.6, almost half. Almost half. Here's the 10-year Treasury yield. Now, I am not here today to give you an economics class on the Treasury bills and where things are, but suffice it to say, and you'll see in a second, the 10-year Treasury yield almost mirrors the mortgage market, almost mirrors the mortgage market. And you see, this is December of 2021 right here at the bottom. And you see what's happened, and we can attest to that. We've now kind of reached a peak and it's coming down the other side. So what does the 10-year Treasury yield have to do with mortgage interest rates? We'll take a look at that. The 10-year Treasury yield is in blue, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is in red. You notice anything kind of similar? They kind of follow each other. Okay? The average spread, and by the way, this is since 1972. So this isn't a snapshot of 30 days. This is since 1972. The average spread between these two is 1.79%. 1.79%. So between 2000 and 2021, the Treasury yield, 10-year Treasury yield was about 3.49%. You add 1.79 onto it, and you get a mortgage interest rate of 5.28%, which is about what the average was for that period of time. So here it was on December 22nd, 2022. We were at 3.68 as far as the Treasury yield. Look what the spread was. Seems kind of odd. Okay. So if we're going to go with historic norms, what's probably going to happen? That's what's probably going to happen. I'm not going to guarantee it, but 2023 is probably, we're going to probably see a year where it's got, the interest rates are going to slowly decline. Okay. So it's not going to be as bad as what everybody says, that we've just gone through this period of when interest rates went crazy, which they did, but we're going to hit a period of normalcy. Here are home price predictions and forecasts by some of the major players in the game. Realtor.com, by the way, the green These are saying, I think home prices are going to appreciate. These entities are saying, I think they're going to go down. So Realtor.com, the Home Price Expectation Survey, Mortgage Bankers Association, and NAR all think that they're going to appreciate a little bit this year. This is 2023. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and Zellman think they're going to go down a small amount. Zellman is thinking as much as 5%. So if you average all 7 of those, comes out to 0.3% appreciation. Does that look like a crash? Does that look like a crash? Yeah, James.
This is national.
National. As we all know, real estate is local.
Right.
Right. So me being the number cruncher that I am, I then took it to the next level. Trust me, I did my math correctly here. So the average home price in the second quarter of 2020 was $322,000. Once again, this is on a national level, to your point. This is from the US Census Bureau. The fourth quarter of 2022 was $454,000. Okay, that was in 2.5 years. 2.5 years. So let's assume that we take Zellman's forecast. She was the most bullish of all of them up there, 5.1%. She thinks it's going to go down. Okay. If that's the case, by the end of 2023, if prices drop 5.1%, in other words, $23,000. Pretty big number. Your home is going to be worth $430,000. Okay. Everybody with me so far? So over 2.5 years, the average home has appreciated $45,000. If you do the math, it went up. Then according to the worst forecast, it's going to go down 5%. That means you have 13.5% appreciation rate over the last 2.5 years. 13.5% appreciation rate. And if I said to you 2.5 years ago, hey, you move into your home today and you're going to have 13.5% appreciation rate, would anybody not move into a home? Okay. But here's what the media focuses on. The average homeowner will lose $23,000 this year because of the real estate market is crashing. That's what is being focused on. That is a true statement. If we believe that forecast, that is a true statement. 13.5% appreciation rate. That's also a true statement. So once again, open your buyers, open your sellers' minds a little bit. These headlines, by and large, there's a certain grain of truth to them, but they're giving you like this much. They're not giving you the whole big picture. You need to paint the big picture for people. Okay. And your last thing today, get the facts first, then you can distort them as you please, which is what the media is doing. Okay. Everybody have a great day today. Welcome to 2023. Take Bob's donut on the